Good evening, and welcome to The Quiet Scientist. As the world outside slowly settles into silence, allow yourself to breathe a little deeper, relax into your pillow, and let the noise of the day gently fade away. Tonight, we begin a quiet journey toward the farthest edges of understanding, drifting calmly into questions that humans have wondered about for as long as we have looked up at the sky. Before we begin, I find myself wondering where you are listening from this evening. Wherever you are, it is a comfort to have you here. If this is your first time visiting The Quiet Scientist, you are very welcome. Taking a moment to like this video or subscribe helps these calm explorations reach other curious minds searching for quiet moments like this one. And to those of you who return night after night, thank you. You are the gentle gravity that allows this small universe to continue growing. If you wish, you may also turn on notifications so you do not miss our next slow drift through science and wonder. Now, my hope is that this video will be soothing enough to let your thoughts soften and your eyelids grow heavy. But if you happen to remain awake, then at least you will be resting quietly, learning something new. There is a place you might stand on a night when the sky has emptied itself of clouds, when the air has settled into stillness, when the last sounds of the day have faded into something quieter than silence. You might stand there in that particular kind of darkness that arrives only when the sun has been gone long enough for the world to forget its warmth. And if you stand there long enough, without purpose or expectation, your eyes may begin to adjust to what the night has been holding all along. Above you, scattered across the darkness, are points of light, some sharp, some soft, some steady, some trembling faintly as though breathing. They do not announce themselves, they do not demand attention, they simply exist, as they have always existed, waiting for someone to notice them. And perhaps you do notice them, not all at once but gradually, as your vision learns to see what has been there all along, patient and undisturbed. But there is something else. Between the stars, or perhaps behind them, or woven through them in some way that is difficult to describe, there is a presence, a faint luminosity, a softness that is not quite light and not quite shadow, but something suspended between the two. It stretches across the sky, this pale band, this ghostly river, moving from one horizon to the other in a great slow arc that seems both distant and intimate at once. This is the Milky Way, though perhaps you do not name it yet. Perhaps you simply see it, as countless others have seen it, as a brightness that does not belong to any single star, as a gathering of light that refuses to resolve itself into clarity. It hangs there, above you, quiet and enormous and strange. You might have passed beneath it many times without noticing. You might have walked through your life with this ribbon of light overhead, always present, always waiting, and never quite seen. Because the Milky Way does not insist, it does not call out, it allows itself to be overlooked night after night, year after year, generation after generation. It asks nothing, it offers only itself, faint and patient, to anyone who happens to look up long enough for their eyes to find it. And now, standing here, you have found it. Or perhaps it has found you. The distinction does not seem to matter. What matters is that you are here, beneath this band of light, and the night has opened itself to you in a way that feels both new and ancient. As though you are the first person to ever see this, and also the 10,000th and the 10 millionth. As though this moment belongs only to you, and also to everyone who has ever stood beneath a dark sky and wondered at the strange pale glow that crosses it. The Milky Way does not move, and yet it seems to flow. It does not change, and yet it seems alive. It is still, utterly still, and yet there is something about it that suggests motion, as though it were a river of light frozen in mid-current, or a breath held between exhale and inhale. You might watch it for a long time, letting your eyes follow its path across the darkness, and you might begin to feel that you are not standing on solid ground at all, but floating, suspended in the same darkness that holds the Milky Way, part of the same night, the same silence, the same vastness. There is no need to understand it. There is no need to know what it is made of, or how far away it might be, or why it appears as it does. Those questions can wait. They can wait indefinitely. What matters now is only the presence of it, the simple fact of its existence. The way it fills a part of the sky you might never have noticed was empty. You are arriving beneath it, slowly, without hurry, allowing yourself to become aware of something that has always been there, but has perhaps never been truly seen. The darkness around you is no longer uniform. It has texture now, depth, variation. There are degrees of darkness, layers of shadow, and within those layers, the Milky Way persists as a gentle illumination, a softness against the black. It does not light the ground beneath your feet. It does not cast shadows. It does not illuminate anything except itself. And perhaps that is enough. Perhaps it is more than enough. You might wonder how long it has been there, how many nights it has crossed this sky, unnoticed or forgotten, while lives unfolded below it. How many people have walked beneath it without seeing it, and how many have seen it and been changed by it, even slightly, even in ways they could not name. The Milky Way does not keep track of these things. It does not count its observers. It simply continues, night after night, a constant presence in a world of change, a stillness in a universe of motion. And you are here now, part of that continuity, standing beneath it as others have stood before you, as others will stand after you, each one arriving in their own moment, in their own darkness, beneath the same band of light that has no beginning and no ending, that simply is, and has always been, and will always be, long after this particular night has faded into memory. There is something comforting in that, something that settles the mind, that quiets the thoughts that so often tumble over one another, demanding attention, insisting on urgency. Beneath the Milky Way, urgency dissolves. There is only the night and the light and the slow realization that you are part of something much larger than yourself, something that does not require your understanding or your participation, something that holds you simply by existing alongside you. You might feel very small standing here, or you might feel vast, as though your awareness has expanded to fill the same space that the Milky Way occupies, as though there is no difference between the darkness around you and the darkness between the stars. Both feelings might be true at once. The Milky Way allows for such contradictions. It does not insist on a single interpretation. It offers itself as a mystery, as a presence, as something to be witnessed rather than solved. The band of light continues across the sky, patient and unhurried. It does not care whether you watch it or turn away. It does not fade if you close your eyes, and it does not brighten if you stare at it intently. It remains exactly as it is, exactly as it has always been, a constant in a world where so little remains constant. And perhaps that is the gift it offers. Not answers, not explanations, but simply presence. The reassurance that some things persist, unchanged and unchanging, regardless of what unfolds in the brief flicker of a human life. You might stand here for a long time, letting the minutes pass without counting them, letting the night deepen around you, letting the Milky Way become the center of your awareness, the focal point of this moment that seems to stretch and expand beyond the usual boundaries of time. There is no rush. There is nowhere you need to be except here, beneath this sky, in this darkness, with this faint river of light overhead. And gradually, without effort, you begin to notice details you had not seen before. The way the Milky Way is not uniform in its brightness, but varies along its length, brighter in some places, dimmer in others, as though it were composed of currents and eddies, of depths and shallows. The way it seems to blur at its edges, fading into the surrounding darkness so gradually that you cannot say exactly where the Milky Way ends and the night begins. The way it appears almost granular, as though it were made of countless tiny points of light clustered so closely together that they merge into a continuous glow. But these observations arise without insistence. They float through your awareness and then drift away again, leaving no trace, requiring nothing. The Milky Way does not demand analysis. It does not ask to be dissected or explained. It simply invites you to see it, to acknowledge it, to allow it to exist in your awareness without needing to transform it into something else, something more manageable, something that fits into the categories and frameworks you usually use to organize the world. Here, beneath the Milky Way, those categories seem less important. The distinctions you normally make between near and far, between known and unknown, between self and other, begin to soften and blur, much like the edges of the Milky Way itself. You are standing on the earth, but you are also suspended in space, surrounded by the same darkness that surrounds the stars, breathing the same night that has been breathed by countless others across countless ages. There is a gentleness to this realization. It does not arrive with force or drama. It seeps in slowly, like water finding its way through porous stone, until suddenly you are aware of it, though you cannot say exactly when the awareness began. And once it is there, it settles into place, comfortable and right, as though it were knowledge you had always carried, but had somehow forgotten until this moment. The Milky Way overhead remains unchanged. It does not respond to your thoughts or your feelings. It does not acknowledge your presence or your absence. And yet, there is a kind of companionship in its indifference, a reassurance in its constancy. It is there, as it has always been there, as it will always be there, regardless of what happens below it, regardless of who watches it or who ignores it, regardless of the turning of seasons and the passing of years. You might begin to feel that you have arrived somewhere, though you have not moved, that you have reached a destination, though you have traveled no distance. The act of noticing the Milky Way, of truly seeing it, feels like a kind of arrival, a moment of recognition, of acknowledgement. You are here, beneath this sky, and the Milky Way is here above you, And that is enough. That is complete. There is nothing more that needs to happen, nothing that needs to be added or explained or understood. The night continues around you, vast and dark and filled with silence. The air is cool against your skin. Your breath moves in and out, steady and slow, matching the rhythm of the night itself. And above, always above, the Milky Way stretches across the darkness, a band of light so faint it seems almost imagined, and yet so persistent that you cannot look away from it, cannot forget it, cannot return to the time before you noticed it. This is the arrival. This is the moment when the Milky Way becomes real to you, when it shifts from being an abstract concept or a vague memory into something present, something immediate, something that exists not in books or photographs, but right here, right now, overhead, waiting for nothing, needing nothing, simply being what it has always been. And you stand beneath it, equally present, equally patient, equally still. Two parts of the same night, the same darkness, the same quiet universe that asks no questions and provides no answers, that simply continues, moment after moment, in its slow and infinite unfolding. There is no need to move, no need to speak, no need to think beyond this simple awareness of presence, of being here, of seeing what has always been there to be seen, the Milky Way above, the earth below, and you, standing between them, part of both, belonging to neither, held by the night in a stillness that feels both endless and fleeting, both profound and ordinary. This is where you have arrived, beneath the Milky Way, in the darkness, in the quiet, in this moment that stretches out in all directions and yet remains perfectly contained, perfectly complete, perfectly still. And perhaps this is enough. Perhaps this is everything. The Milky Way overhead, faint and persistent and strange, and you beneath it, watching, breathing, being, arriving again and again in this single endless moment of recognition. The Milky Way overhead, faint and persistent and strange, and you beneath it, watching, breathing, being, arriving again and again in this single endless moment of recognition. And perhaps the recognition deepens with each passing moment, or perhaps it simply repeats itself, the same awareness returning in waves, gentle and unhurried. You see the band of light, you see it again and again, each time as though for the first time, and each time with the same quiet certainty that it has always been there, that it will always be there, that this faint luminosity stretching across the darkness is as much a part of the night as the darkness itself. Your eyes have grown accustomed now to what they are seeing. The initial adjustment, that slow awakening to the presence of something previously unseen, has settled into a steady awareness. The Milky Way is simply there, not bright, never bright, but present in its paleness, in its soft diffusion across the black. You do not have to search for it anymore. You do not have to strain or focus. It exists within your field of vision, as naturally as the ground beneath your feet exists beneath your awareness, constant and undemanding. And still you remain standing in this place, in this darkness, beneath this sky. Time has become difficult to measure. Minutes might have passed, or hours. The night does not offer any indication. The stars have not moved in any way you can perceive. The Milky Way has not shifted or changed. Everything is as it was, and as it will continue to be. And there is a strange comfort in that changelessness, in that absolute stillness that surrounds you and holds you without effort. You might wonder if you are the only one seeing this now, in this moment, or if somewhere else, under a different part of this same sky, someone else is also standing, also looking up, also finding this band of light and pausing beneath it. The thought arrives without insistence, floats through your mind like a leaf drifting on still water, and then moves on, leaving no disturbance behind it. It does not matter whether others are watching. It does not change what is happening here, in this particular darkness, in this particular moment of quiet attention. The Milky Way continues overhead. It has not grown brighter. It has not revealed anything new. It is simply itself, exactly as it has been since you first noticed it, since your eyes first found that faint river of light moving across the black. And you are simply yourself, standing here, breathing slowly, aware of the coolness of the night air, aware of the solidity of the ground, aware of the vastness overhead, and the way it seems both infinitely far away and somehow close enough to touch. There is nothing more that needs to be seen, nothing more that needs to be understood. The Milky Way has offered itself, and you have received it, and that transaction, if it can be called a transaction, is complete. And yet you remain, because there is nowhere else to be, nothing else that calls you away from this moment, this darkness, this presence of something so much larger than yourself that your own presence feels both insignificant and perfectly appropriate at once. The night holds you gently, the darkness surrounds you without weight, and the Milky Way stretches above, unchanged, unhurried, indifferent, and yet somehow companionable in its indifference, a constant that asks nothing and gives everything simply by existing, simply by being visible to anyone who takes the time to look up into the darkness and wait for their eyes to adjust. You are here beneath it. You have arrived beneath it, and perhaps you will remain here a while longer, or perhaps you will eventually turn away, return to wherever you came from. Carry this image with you into sleep or into the rest of your life. But for now, there is only this: the standing, the watching, the quiet awareness of the Milky Way overhead, that band of light so faint it seems almost imagined, and yet so undeniably present that you cannot unsee it, cannot forget it, cannot pretend it is not there. And so you stand, and the night continues, and the Milky Way persists in its ancient path across the sky, and everything is exactly as it should be, exactly as it has always been, in this moment that feels both fleeting and eternal, both new and infinitely old. The band of light overhead might remind you of a river, not a rushing river, not one that churns and tumbles over rocks, but something slower, something that moves with such gentleness that you cannot see the movement at all, only sense it, only feel it in some quiet part of your awareness that has no words for what it perceives. A river of light, pale and soft, flowing across the darkness from one edge of the sky to the other, following a path that seems both deliberate and effortless, as though it had always flowed this way, as though it could flow no other way. You might let your eyes follow it, not with any purpose or intention, but simply because it is there, and because your gaze naturally drifts along its length, tracing the gentle curve it makes across the black, from one horizon where it seems to emerge from the earth itself, or from something beyond the earth, rising up into the darkness, and then across the vast dome of sky, moving in that slow arc that feels less like motion and more like presence, like a shape that has always been there, waiting to be noticed. And then down again, descending toward the opposite horizon, where it seems to return to the earth, or to sink beneath it, or to simply fade into a darkness that becomes too deep for even this faint light to penetrate. Your eyes follow this path, or perhaps your eyes simply rest upon it, allowing the Milky Way to guide them without effort, without strain, along the gentle river it creates through the night. It is like a river, or perhaps it is like mist, that same soft quality, that same diffusion of light that refuses to resolve itself into anything solid or defined. Mist rising from water in the early morning, hanging in the air, neither falling nor lifting, simply existing in that suspended state between earth and sky. The Milky Way has this quality, this presence that is neither here nor there, but somehow both, somehow everywhere along its length at once. A veil of light, perhaps, something thin and delicate, something you could almost imagine reaching up to touch, though you know it is far beyond any reaching, far beyond any touching. But the image persists, a veil drawn across the darkness, a soft fabric of light, translucent and pale, allowing the darkness to show through it even as it covers the darkness, even as it rests upon the darkness, like a layer of something gentler, something that softens the absolute black of the night into something more welcoming, more inhabited. The Milky Way is a presence that fills the emptiness without erasing it, that adds something to the night without taking anything away. Your eyes continue to rest upon it, following its path, or simply staying with it, letting it be the center of your vision, the place where your attention naturally settles. There is no effort in this watching, no concentration required. The Milky Way does not demand focus. It allows your gaze to be soft, unfocused, receptive, rather than active. You are not studying it. You are not trying to see it more clearly. You are simply letting it be there, in your awareness, in your vision, flowing across the darkness like water flows through a landscape, shaping itself to the contours of the sky. And perhaps the image of a river returns, because there is something about the way it moves across the sky, or seems to move, or holds the possibility of movement within its stillness, that suggests water, suggests flow, suggests a gentle current moving through darkness, the way water moves through stone, patient and persistent and utterly without hurry. The Milky Way is a river of light, flowing through a landscape of night, following channels carved by time, by gravity, by forces you do not need to name or understand. You might imagine yourself beside this river, though you are beneath it, though you are separated from it by distances you cannot measure and do not need to measure. But the feeling is similar, the feeling of standing beside water in darkness, watching it flow past, watching the way light catches on its surface, the way it reflects and refracts and carries brightness through shadow. The Milky Way flows in this same way, carries light through darkness in this same way, though it is not water, though it is something else entirely, something that has no name except the name humans have given it. And even that name feels insufficient, feels too small for what it describes. The river continues. The band of light persists in its crossing of the sky. You let your eyes drift along it again, following the same path they followed before, and the path before that, tracing the gentle arc from horizon to horizon, from the place where the Milky Way emerges into visibility to the place where it fades back into darkness. And each time you trace this path, it feels the same and slightly different, as though you are seeing it anew each time, as though your eyes have forgotten what they saw a moment ago and must learn it again, must rediscover the presence of this pale river overhead. There is no urgency to this watching, no sense that you must memorize the shape of the Milky Way, must commit it to memory before it disappears. It will not disappear. It is as permanent as anything in the night sky can be, as constant as the darkness itself, and so you can watch it without anxiety, without the need to hold on to it, without fear of losing it. It will be there tomorrow night, and the night after, and the night after that, flowing in its silent river across the same path it has always followed, visible to anyone who takes the time to look up, to let their eyes adjust, to stand still long enough for the darkness to reveal what it has been holding all along. The Milky Way might seem brighter in some places, dimmer in others, as you let your gaze drift along its length. These variations in brightness give it texture, give it depth, make it seem less like a flat image painted on the sky, and more like something three-dimensional, something with layers and currents, with shallows and depths. Like a river catching light differently depending on how the water moves, how deep it runs, what lies beneath its surface. The Milky Way has this quality, this sense of varying depth, of complexity hidden within apparent simplicity, of more existing there than can be seen at first glance. But you do not need to analyze these variations. You do not need to understand why some portions appear brighter, why others fade into the surrounding darkness so gradually that you cannot say where the Milky Way ends and the night begins. It is enough to simply see them, to notice them in the same gentle way you might notice the patterns water makes as it flows over stones, without needing to explain them, without needing to turn observation into understanding. Your eyes rest on the Milky Way, and the Milky Way rests in the sky, and everything is still, utterly still, even as the image of a river suggests motion, suggests flow, suggests something moving through time and space. But the motion is so slow, so gradual, that it cannot be seen, cannot be measured, can only be felt in that deep place where you sense things beyond the reach of ordinary perception. The Milky Way flows. The Milky Way is still. Both things are true at once, and the contradiction does not trouble you, does not require resolution. Perhaps you notice the edges of the Milky Way, where the light gradually thins and fades into darkness. These edges are not sharp, they are not defined, they blur and soften, like mist dissipating into clear air, like water spreading into sand. The Milky Way has no clear beginning and no clear ending. It emerges from darkness and returns to darkness, and the transitions are so gradual, so gentle, that they seem to happen over vast stretches of sky, vast stretches of time. Or perhaps they do not happen at all. Perhaps the Milky Way and the darkness are always blending together, always in the process of becoming one another, never quite separate, never quite the same. You let your eyes follow these edges, these places where light meets dark, where the pale river begins to lose itself in the night that surrounds it. And there is something peaceful in this boundary, something that does not insist on separation, on distinction, but allows everything to flow together, to blend, to become part of a larger whole that includes both the light and the darkness, both the visible and the invisible, both what can be seen and what remains hidden. The river of light continues across the sky. You have been watching it for some time now, though you are not sure how long. Time has become fluid here, beneath this band of light, in this darkness that holds you so gently. Minutes might have passed, or longer. The night does not tell you. The Milky Way does not mark the passage of time. It simply persists, flowing in its slow and silent way, asking nothing, revealing nothing except itself, its own pale presence against the black. And perhaps your gaze drifts along its length again, following the same path it has followed before, tracing that gentle arc across the darkness. There is something meditative in this repetition, something that settles the mind, that quiets the thoughts that usually rush and tumble through your awareness. The Milky Way allows no rushing. It allows no tumbling. It invites only this slow drift of attention, this gentle following of a path that goes nowhere and everywhere at once, that begins and ends in darkness and carries light between those two darknesses, like a gift, like an offering, like something given freely and without expectation of return. The image of mist returns to you. The Milky Way is mist hanging in the air, soft and diffuse, catching light from some source you cannot see, some source that might be within the mist itself, or beyond it, or everywhere at once. Mist that blurs everything it touches, that softens hard edges, that makes the world gentler, quieter, more dreamlike. The Milky Way has this quality, this softness, this refusal to be sharp or clear or defined. It hovers in the darkness, and the darkness shows through it, and together they create something that is neither fully light nor fully dark, but something in between, something that exists in that liminal space where categories break down and everything becomes more fluid, more open, more possible. You might stay with this image for a while, letting the Milky Way be mist, letting it be that soft presence hanging between you and the stars, between the earth and the infinite beyond. And the image feels right, feels true to what you are seeing, even though you know the Milky Way is not mist, is not water vapor suspended in air, is something else entirely. But the metaphor holds, the comparison stands, because what matters is not what the Milky Way is made of, but how it appears, how it feels, how it rests in your awareness as you stand beneath it in this darkness. And so the mist remains, and the river remains, and the veil remains, all of these images layering over one another, none of them quite right, all of them close enough. The Milky Way allows for this multiplicity of metaphor. It does not insist on a single interpretation. It offers itself as something that can be seen in many ways, understood in many ways, or not understood at all, simply experienced, simply witnessed, simply allowed to exist in your field of vision, without needing to be translated into anything other than what it is. Your eyes continue their slow drift along the length of the Milky Way, following that pale river of light from one side of the sky to the other, and then back again, and then again. There is no destination to this journey, no place you are trying to reach. The movement of your gaze is simply movement for its own sake, simply the natural following of something that suggests a path, a direction. a way through the darkness, and you follow it without effort, without thought, allowing your eyes to be guided by the presence of this light, this soft luminosity that stretches across the night like a road, like a stream, like a veil that has been lifted just enough to reveal something of what lies beyond it. The Milky Way flows, or perhaps it hangs, or perhaps it rests. All of these words feel inadequate, feel like approximations of something that cannot quite be captured in language, that exists beyond language, in the realm of pure seeing, pure presence. But the words are all you have, and so you use them, gently, tentatively, knowing they cannot fully describe what you are seeing, what you are experiencing, what you are feeling as you stand here in the darkness with this river of light overhead. And the river continues, patient and unhurried, flowing through its ancient channel across the sky, carrying light through darkness, carrying your attention along with it, inviting you to stay here, to remain here, to let time dissolve into this slow watching, this gentle awareness, this quiet communion with something so much larger than yourself that your own presence seems to fade, seems to become part of the darkness, part of the night, part of the same vast stillness that holds the Milky Way and holds you and makes no distinction between the two. You might let your eyes rest for a moment on one particular stretch of the river, one section of that pale band where the light seems to gather more thickly, where the mist seems denser, where the veil appears more substantial. Not brighter necessarily, but somehow more present, more concentrated, as though more light has pooled there, has collected there in the way water collects in a depression, finding the lowest place, the natural place to settle. And your gaze stays with this section, not moving now, not following the path of the Milky Way across the sky, but simply resting, simply abiding with this one piece of the larger whole. And even in this small section, this fragment of the river, there is depth, there is texture, there is that same soft quality that refuses to become hard or defined, that same blurring at the edges where the light fades into darkness so gradually that the transition seems to take forever, seems to occupy the entire space between what is visible and what is not. You watch this fading happen, or watch it continue to happen, or simply observe that it is happening, has always been happening, will always be happening. This gentle dissolution of light into shadow, this soft bleeding of brightness into black. And perhaps after a time, after some unmeasured duration of watching this one place, your eyes begin to drift again, to move along the river once more, following its flow or following its path, or simply moving in the direction that the Milky Way seems to suggest without insisting upon. The movement is slow, unhurried, as though your eyes themselves have learned the rhythm of this river, have learned to move at the same pace as light moving through darkness, at the same pace as time moving through night, at the same pace as stillness moving through stillness. The Milky Way curves gently overhead, and your gaze curves with it, following that long arc from one horizon toward the other, never quite reaching either end, never quite completing the journey, but always in the middle of it, always suspended between beginning and ending, always present in that continuous flow that has no distinct moments, no separate instances, only this one long movement that contains all moments within itself. And the image of water returns again, as it has returned before, as it will return again. Because there is something about the Milky Way that continues to suggest water, continues to suggest flow and current, and the patient movement of something through something else. A river through landscape, light through darkness, presence through emptiness. The metaphor shifts and changes, even as it remains the same, even as it continues to point toward the same essential quality of the Milky Way, that quality of gentle movement within absolute stillness, of change within constancy, of flow within permanence. You might notice the darkness around the Milky Way, the deep black that surrounds it, that holds it, that provides the background against which this pale light becomes visible. The darkness is not empty. It is not nothing. It is as much a presence as the light itself, as essential, as necessary. Without the darkness, the Milky Way could not be seen. Without the black, the pale river of light would have nowhere to flow, nothing to flow through, no landscape to shape itself against. And so the darkness is part of the image, part of what you are seeing, part of what makes the Milky Way what it is. Your eyes drift along the river, along the band, along the soft veil of light, and the darkness drifts with them, always present, always surrounding, always there at the edges of your vision and beyond the edges, extending out into distances you cannot measure, into depths you cannot fathom. The Milky Way floats in this darkness like mist floats in air, like a river flows through valleys, held and carried and supported by something larger than itself, something that gives it context, gives it meaning, gives it the space to exist. And perhaps you become aware again of the way your eyes are moving or not moving, the way they rest on the Milky Way and drift along it and return to it over and over in a gentle rhythm that has no urgency, no purpose beyond the simple act of seeing, of watching, of allowing this band of light to be the center of your attention, the focus of your awareness, the thing that fills your vision and your mind, and the quiet space where thoughts usually gather. The Milky Way continues across the sky, and you continue beneath it, and the night continues around both of you, holding everything in its vast and patient stillness, asking nothing, offering everything, simply being what it has always been, what it will always be, for as long as there are nights, for as long as there are eyes to see, for as long as there is darkness and light and the pale rivers that flow between them. There is something you might begin to sense, standing here beneath this band of light, beneath this pale river that stretches across the darkness. Something that shifts quietly in your awareness, like a change in perspective that happens so gradually you cannot say when it began. You have been watching the Milky Way, following its path across the sky, seeing it as something above you, something overhead, something distant and separate from where you stand. But perhaps that is not quite right. Perhaps that is not the whole of what is happening here. Because you are not standing beneath the Milky Way in the way you might stand beneath a cloud, or beneath the roof of a building, or beneath anything that is truly separate from you, truly outside of you. You are not observing the Milky Way from some external vantage point. You are not looking at it from a distance. You are, in some way that is difficult to put into words, inside it. You are part of it. You belong to it in the same way that a fish belongs to the river it swims in, in the same way that air belongs to the atmosphere, in the same way that anything belongs to the larger whole that contains it. This realization, if it can be called a realization, does not arrive with clarity or force. It seeps in slowly, like water finding its way through fabric, until suddenly you are aware of it, though you cannot say exactly when the awareness began. You are inside the Milky Way. The ground beneath your feet, the air you are breathing, the darkness that surrounds you, the stars scattered across the sky, and that pale band of light overhead, all of it is part of the same thing. All of it is contained within the same vast structure, the same enormous gathering of light and matter and emptiness that you have been calling the Milky Way. And if you are inside it, then you are not merely observing it. You are participating in it. You are one small piece of it, one tiny fragment of the whole, as much a part of the Milky Way as any star that contributes its light to that pale band overhead, as any darkness that fills the space between the stars. You are here, and here is inside, not outside. Here is belonging, not observing. Here is participation, not separation. The Milky Way is not an object in the sky. It is the sky. It is the environment you inhabit, the space you occupy, the context within which your existence unfolds. You have always been inside it, from the moment you were born, from the moment the earth itself came into being, from the moment anything began. There has never been a time when you were outside the Milky Way, looking in. There has only ever been this being within, this quiet immersion in something so large that you cannot see its boundaries, cannot perceive its edges, can only sense its presence by the way it holds you, by the way it surrounds you on all sides. And perhaps this changes how you see that band of light overhead. It is no longer something separate, something distant, something to be observed from afar. It is the visible portion of the place where you already are, the part of the Milky Way that reveals itself to your eyes because you happen to be positioned in such a way that you can see it, that the angle and the distance and the darkness all align to make it visible. But it is not separate from you. It is continuous with you. You are looking at the Milky Way from inside the Milky Way, seeing part of it because you are part of it, because there is no outside from which to observe. Only this infinite inside, this boundless interior that contains everything you have ever known or will ever know. The darkness around you is inside the Milky Way. The ground beneath your feet is inside the Milky Way. The air moving through your lungs is inside the Milky Way. Everything is inside, has always been inside, will always be inside. And this inside is so vast, so incomprehensibly large, that it feels like an outside, feels like an endless expanse of space stretching in all directions. But it is not outside, it is the interior of something, the inner landscape of a structure so enormous that your mind cannot hold it, cannot encompass it, can only accept it as the totality of what exists, the whole of the space within which existence happens. You might stand here for a while, letting this awareness settle, letting it find its place in your understanding without forcing it, without trying to make it clearer or more definite than it wants to be. You are inside the Milky Way. This simple fact, this quiet truth, does not need to be elaborated. It does not need to be explained or expanded or made into something more than it is. It is enough by itself, complete by itself, a statement that contains its own meaning without requiring additional words. And as you stand here, inside this vast interior, you might become aware of how it holds you. Not physically, not in any way you can feel with your body, but in some other way, some way that exists beyond the reach of ordinary sensation. The Milky Way holds you the way a room holds the air inside it, the way a forest holds the trees that grow within it, the way any container holds what it contains, gently, completely, without effort or intention, simply by being what it is, by providing the space within which you exist, by offering the context that makes your existence possible. There is no inside and outside here, no boundary between you and the Milky Way, between what you are and what it is. You are made of the same material as the stars that contribute their light to that pale band overhead. The atoms in your body were formed in the same processes that formed those stars, came from the same sources, belong to the same lineage of matter that has been circulating through the Milky Way for longer than you can imagine. You are not separate from it. You are an expression of it, a temporary configuration of its substance, a moment in its long unfolding. And perhaps this makes you feel less small, standing here in the darkness. Or perhaps it makes you feel smaller still, but in a different way, a way that is not diminishing, but somehow comforting. You are small within the Milky Way, yes, but you are also of the Milky Way, part of it, belonging to it in the most fundamental way possible. Your smallness is not isolation. It is connection. It is participation in something so much larger than yourself that your own boundaries begin to blur, begin to fade, until you are not sure where you end and the Milky Way begins, or if such a distinction has any meaning at all. The band of light overhead continues to stretch across the darkness, and you continue to see it, but perhaps you see it differently now. Not as something external, something out there, but as something internal, something in here, part of the same interior space that you inhabit, that you have always inhabited. The Milky Way revealing itself to you from within itself, showing you one aspect of its vast structure, allowing you to see what you are part of, what you have always been part of, what you could never be separate from, even if you tried. You are inside a galaxy, inside a vast wheel of stars and darkness and light, spinning slowly in the emptiness, or perhaps not spinning at all, perhaps simply existing in a state that includes motion and stillness both, that transcends such simple categories. You are inside this structure, living on a small world that orbits a small star that is itself just one of countless stars scattered through the interior of this enormous space. And from your position within it, you can see part of it, can glimpse the band of light that marks the densest concentration of stars, the plane where most of the Milky Way's visible matter resides. But you cannot see all of it. You cannot step outside of it to view it as a whole, to see its shape, to understand its structure, in the way you might understand a building by walking around it, by viewing it from all sides. You can only see it from within, can only know it as an interior, as an environment, as the place where you are, rather than the thing you observe. And perhaps this is enough. Perhaps this interior perspective, this view from within, is the only perspective that matters, the only one that is real, the only one that truly captures what it means to be part of the Milky Way, rather than merely looking at it. The darkness around you extends in all directions, and all of it is inside. The stars you can see scattered across the black, they are inside. The pale band of light overhead, inside. The space between the stars, vast and empty and black, that too is inside. Part of the same interior, the same boundless room within which everything exists. There is no wall, no boundary, no edge where the inside becomes outside. There is only this continuous interior, this space that contains everything, this environment that has no exterior, because it is, in some sense, all that there is. And you are here, within it, part of it, held by it without being constrained by it, surrounded by it without being separated from it. The Milky Way is not a container that you have been placed inside. It is the context of your existence, the ground of your being, the substance from which you are made, and the space within which you unfold. You are as much inside the Milky Way as your thoughts are inside your mind, as your breath is inside your body. There is no separation, no distance, only this intimate belonging, this fundamental participation in something that has no inside or outside, because it simply is, because it encompasses everything, because nothing exists beyond it or apart from it. The band of light continues across the sky, patient and unchanging, and you continue to stand beneath it, or within it, or as part of it. The distinctions blur, the categories soften. You are here, and here is inside, and inside is everywhere, and everywhere is the Milky Way, and the Milky Way is where you have always been, where you will always be, the only place there is, the only interior that exists, vast and dark and filled with light, filled with stars, filled with emptiness, filled with you. You might close your eyes for a moment, and the Milky Way does not disappear. It is still there, still surrounding you, still holding you in its vast interior. You cannot see it with your eyes closed, but you can feel it, can sense it, can know it as the space that contains you, the environment that supports you, the context within which your awareness exists. And when you open your eyes again, the band of light is still there, still stretching across the darkness, still showing you one small piece of the vast interior you inhabit, one glimpse of the place you have never left and can never leave. There is a comfort in this belonging, in this being inside rather than outside, in this participation rather than observation. You are not alone in the darkness. You are part of the darkness, part of the light, part of everything that exists within this vast interior. The Milky Way holds you not as a container holds an object, but as existence holds experience, as space holds presence, as the whole holds its parts without distinction, without separation, without any boundary that could divide one from the other. And so you remain here, inside, belonging, participating, being part of rather than apart from, held by something so large that it has no edges, no limits, no boundaries, except perhaps the boundaries of existence itself. The Milky Way as environment, as context, as the interior within which all that you know unfolds, within which all that you are exists, within which this moment and every moment finds its place, its meaning, its quiet and undeniable reality. The band of light overhead continues to glow faintly in the darkness, and you continue to exist within it, of it, as it, in ways that language struggles to capture, but that feel true nonetheless, that feel right. that feel like coming home to something you never left, like recognizing something you always knew but had somehow forgotten. You are inside the Milky Way, and the Milky Way is inside you, and the distinction between these two statements dissolves until there is only this, only presence, only belonging, only the quiet fact of being here, being part of, being within, being held by something vast and patient and utterly without urgency, something that simply is and has always been and continues to be, moment after moment after moment, in this long and gentle unfolding that has no beginning and no end, only this continuous now, this eternal interior, this place where you have always been and will always be, inside the Milky Way, inside the darkness, inside the light, inside everything that exists. The band of light overhead continues to glow faintly in the darkness, and you continue to exist within it, of it, as it, in ways that language struggles to capture, but that feel true nonetheless, that feel right, that feel like coming home to something you never left, like recognizing something you always knew but had somehow forgotten. You are inside the Milky Way, and the Milky Way is inside you, and the distinction between these two statements dissolves until there is only this, only presence, only belonging, only the quiet fact of being here, being part of, being within, being held by something vast and patient and utterly without urgency, something that simply is and has always been and continues to be, moment after moment after moment, in this long and gentle unfolding that has no beginning and no end, only this continuous now, this eternal interior, this place where you have always been and will always be, inside the Milky Way, inside the darkness, inside the light, inside everything that exists. And perhaps you simply stand here, allowing this awareness to be what it is, allowing yourself to rest in this sense of interior, of belonging, of being contained within something that is also you, that is also everything. There is no need to move beyond this recognition, no need to take it further or make it more complicated than it already is. You are inside. That is enough. That is complete. The darkness around you is the same darkness that fills the spaces between the stars overhead, the same darkness that extends in all directions through the vast interior of the Milky Way. It is not separate darkness. It is continuous darkness, unbroken darkness, the same substance or absence of substance that pervades everything, that connects everything, that makes the interior a single unified space rather than a collection of separate places. And you breathe this darkness, or exist within it, or are made of it in some way that does not require understanding, only acceptance. The ground beneath your feet is inside, the air is inside, your body is inside, your awareness is inside. Everything that you can sense or imagine or know is inside this vast structure, this enormous gathering of matter and light and emptiness that has no exterior, no outside surface, no boundary beyond which something else begins. There is only interior, only the boundless space within, only this environment that contains all environments, this context that provides the ground for all contexts. And the band of light overhead, that pale river stretching across the black, is also inside. It is inside seen from inside, one part of the interior visible to another part, one region of the Milky Way made apparent to eyes that exist within another region of the same Milky Way. You are not looking at something separate. You are looking at the place where you are from a particular position within that place. seeing it reveal itself to itself, seeing it become visible to itself through your eyes, through your awareness, through your presence here in this moment. There is an intimacy to this that has no words, a closeness that comes not from proximity, but from identity, from being part of the same thing, from sharing the same substance, the same origin, the same context. You are close to the Milky Way in the way that water is close to the ocean, in the way that breath is close to air, in the way that anything is close to the whole it belongs to. Not close as in nearby, but close as in inseparable, as in fundamentally united, as in never having been apart and never capable of being apart. And so you remain here, inside, held by the vast interior that is also you, that is also everything. That is the only place there is. The Milky Way surrounds you and contains you and is you, all at once, all in the same moment, all in this quiet recognition that needs nothing more than to be acknowledged, to be felt, to be allowed to exist in your awareness without requiring explanation or elaboration or any movement beyond itself. The pale band of light continues across the darkness, and you continue within the darkness, and the darkness continues within the Milky Way, and the Milky Way continues within itself, holding everything, containing everything, being everything, in this eternal interior that has no walls, no boundaries, no edges, only depth and presence, and the quiet persistence of existence unfolding within itself, seeing itself, knowing itself, being itself, in you as you, through you, without separation, without distance, without any division between observer and observed, between interior and exterior, between the part and the whole. You are inside the Milky Way, and this fact rests in your awareness now, quiet and complete, requiring nothing, offering everything, simply being what it is, true and unchanging and sufficient, in this moment, in this darkness, in this vast interior, where you have always been and will always be. There is distance between you and the band of light overhead. You know this without needing to measure it, without needing to assign it a number or translate it into units that might make it comprehensible. The distance is simply there, present in the same way the darkness is present, in the same way the stars are present. It exists as a fact that requires no quantification, no reduction to figures or calculations. The Milky Way is far from you, and yet this farness is not something you need to understand in precise terms. It is enough to simply feel it, to sense it, to allow it to be what it is without trying to capture it in language or mathematics. Distance, here beneath the night sky, is not a measurement, it is a quality. It is the sense of separation between where you stand and where that pale band of light exists, a separation that is both vast and intimate at once. The Milky Way is distant in a way that makes it unreachable, untouchable, beyond any physical journey you could undertake, and yet it is also present, visible, part of your immediate experience, close enough to see, close enough to allow into your awareness. Distance becomes something other than what it usually is. It becomes a feeling rather than a fact, a sense of farness that does not need to be made specific, that loses nothing by remaining vague and undefined. You might think of the light you are seeing, the faint glow that forms that band across the darkness. This light has traveled to reach you. It has moved through space, through the vast emptiness that fills the interior of the Milky Way, traveling from wherever it originated to this place where you stand, where your eyes can receive it. But this traveling happened quietly, without fanfare, without announcement. The light simply moved, as light moves, crossing distance in silence, in darkness, arriving at your eyes after a journey you cannot measure, after traversing a space you cannot imagine. And perhaps the light has been traveling for a long time. Perhaps it left its source years ago, or longer, and has been moving through the darkness ever since, patient and constant, neither hurrying nor delaying, simply continuing at the pace that light continues, until finally it arrived here, now, in this moment when you happen to be standing beneath the sky, when your eyes happen to be open, when your attention happens to be directed upward toward that pale band overhead. The light traveled all that distance, all that time to reach this moment. Or perhaps it did not travel toward anything at all. Perhaps it simply moved, and you happened to be in its path, happened to be positioned in such a way that you could receive it. The distance the light has crossed is not something you can hold in your mind. It is too large, too vast, too far beyond the scale of distances you are familiar with. The distances you know, the distances you move through in your daily life, the space between one place and another that you can walk or drive or measure with familiar units. These distances have no relation to the distance light travels to reach you from the depths of the Milky Way. The scales are incompatible, the measurements do not translate, and so the distance remains abstract, remains a feeling, a sense of vastness that cannot be reduced to anything more concrete. You stand here, and the light is there, and between you and it is space. Vast space, empty space, space that contains nothing and everything at once, that is filled with darkness and scattered with occasional points of light, with stars and dust and structures you cannot see, cannot imagine, can only accept as existing somewhere in that enormous gap between where you are and where the light you are seeing originated. This space is distance. This space is separation, and yet it is also connection, because the light has crossed it, has bridged it, has moved from there to here, and in doing so has created a link, a relationship, a thread of connection between 2 points in the vast interior of the Milky Way. Distance here is also depth. When you look at the band of light overhead, you are not seeing a flat surface, not seeing something that exists at a single remove from you. You are seeing depth, seeing into the Milky Way, seeing through layers of space, through regions that are closer and regions that are farther, through light that has traveled a shorter distance and light that has traveled a longer distance, all mixed together, all arriving at your eyes in the same moment, creating that soft glow that refuses to resolve itself into distinct points, into separate sources. The depth is part of what makes the Milky Way appear as it does, part of what gives it that quality of softness, of diffusion, of being more like mist or smoke than like something solid. And this depth, like the distance, cannot be measured in any meaningful way. It is simply there, inherent in what you are seeing, part of the experience of looking at the Milky Way from within the Milky Way. You are seeing through space, seeing into space, seeing across distances that have no relation to the distances you normally think about, that exist on a scale so far beyond human experience that they become something else entirely, something that can only be felt as vastness, as depth, as the sense that what you are looking at extends far beyond what you can see, far beyond what you can imagine, into regions of space that remain forever beyond your reach. The light continues to arrive, moment after moment, traveling its silent path through darkness, crossing distances that have no name, no number, no measurement that would make them comprehensible. And you continue to receive this light, to allow it to enter your eyes, to register in your awareness as that pale band stretching across the black. The exchange happens continuously, quietly, without any acknowledgement of the vast distance that has been crossed, the enormous space that has been traversed. Light moves from there to here, and in moving, it brings the distant close, makes the faraway visible, creates a connection across a separation that should make connection impossible. You might imagine this distance as openness, as a great opening in space, a vastness that extends in all directions, not just between you and the band of light overhead, but everywhere, in every direction you could look, in every dimension you could move. The Milky Way is filled with this openness, this space that allows everything to exist at a distance from everything else, that provides room for stars and darkness and light to spread out, to occupy their own positions, to be separate while remaining part of the same whole. The openness is not empty. It is full of distance, full of the space between things, full of the gaps that make separation possible and connection meaningful. And perhaps you feel this openness as you stand here, feel it pressing in on you from all sides, or perhaps not pressing at all, perhaps simply existing around you, a quality of space that makes itself known through the very fact that things are far from one another, that distance exists, that separation is part of how the universe is structured. The openness is gentle, not threatening, not overwhelming, simply present as a fact, as a quality of existence that allows things to be where they are, allows light to travel, allows you to stand here and see what is far away without being able to touch it, without being able to reach it, without being able to cross the distance that separates you from it. The vastness settles around you, and you settle into the vastness, and neither requires the other to be measured or quantified or understood in any precise way. Vastness is simply the word you use to describe this feeling of distance without limit, of space without boundary, of depth that extends beyond what you can see or imagine or comprehend. And it is enough to name it this way, to call it vastness, to let that word carry all the meaning it needs to carry without trying to make it more specific, more exact, more measurable. You might think again of the light, traveling through this vastness, moving through all that empty space, crossing all that distance in silence and darkness. The light does not struggle, it does not tire, it does not question the distance it must cross or wonder whether it will arrive. It simply moves, constant and patient, at the pace it has always moved, the pace it will always move, covering distance without effort, without awareness, without any sense of the vastness it traverses. And eventually, after traveling for however long it has traveled, the light arrives here, where you are, and becomes visible, becomes part of your experience, becomes the glow you see when you look up at the band stretching across the darkness. The distance the light has crossed is the same distance that separates you from the source of that light, and yet you cannot feel that separation in any concrete way. You cannot reach out and touch the space between, cannot walk through it or measure it or verify it in any physical sense. It exists only as an abstraction, as a concept, as the knowledge that the light you are seeing comes from far away, from somewhere else, from a place you are not and can never be. The distance is real, but it is not tangible. It is present, but it is not graspable. It is there, but it cannot be held or examined or understood except as a feeling, as a sense of farness that pervades everything you are seeing when you look at the Milky Way. And perhaps this is the nature of distance at this scale. It ceases to be something you can relate to directly, something you can compare to the distances you know, the spaces you have crossed, the separations you have experienced. It becomes something else, something that exists in a different realm of experience, a realm where numbers have no meaning, where measurements fail to capture what is essential, where the only way to understand distance is to feel it, to sense it, to allow it to be present in your awareness without trying to translate it into something more familiar, more manageable, more human. The Milky Way overhead continues to glow faintly in the darkness, and that glow represents distance, represents depth, represents the vast space between you and the sources of the light you are seeing. But it also represents connection, represents the fact that despite all that distance, despite all that separation, the light has reached you, has crossed the gap, has made the faraway present, visible, part of your immediate experience. Distance both separates and connects. It creates gaps and bridges them. It makes things far and brings them near, all at once, all in the same moment, all in the simple act of light moving through space and arriving at eyes that can receive it. You stand here in the darkness, and the vastness stands with you, surrounds you, extends in all directions from where you are to places you cannot imagine, distances you cannot measure, depths you cannot fathom. And all of this vastness, all of this distance, all of this space is contained within the Milky Way, is part of the interior you inhabit, is the openness that allows everything to exist where it exists, allows light to travel, allows separation and connection to coexist, allows you to see what is far away without being able to reach it. The feeling of distance settles into your awareness, becomes part of what you are experiencing as you look at the band of light overhead. You are here. The light originated there. Between here and there is space, vast and empty, and filled with darkness, crossed by light moving at its constant pace, bridged by the simple fact of visibility, of seeing, of light arriving and being received. The distance does not need to be measured. It does not need to be understood. It only needs to be felt, to be sensed, to be allowed to exist as what it is, a separation that is also a connection, a vastness that is also an intimacy, a farness that is also a presence. And so you remain here, beneath the Milky Way, aware of the distance between you and what you are seeing, aware of the depth that extends into the darkness, aware of the vastness that surrounds you and holds you and provides the space within which everything exists. The distance is there, quiet and enormous, requiring nothing, offering everything, simply being what it is, unmeasured and unmeasurable, felt rather than known, sensed rather than understood, present in every moment you spend, looking at that pale band of light stretching across the black. The light continues to arrive, continues to cross the distance, continues to travel its silent path through the vastness, and you continue to receive it, to see it, to allow it to be part of your awareness without needing to reduce it to numbers, without needing to make it smaller or more comprehensible. The distance remains vast, remains beyond your ability to grasp, and that is as it should be. That is how it must be, because some things are meant to remain beyond measurement, beyond understanding, existing only as feelings, as senses, as qualities of experience that cannot be captured in any other way. The band of light overhead has been there for a long time, longer than you have been standing here beneath it, longer than you have been alive, longer than anyone you have ever known has been alive. It stretches across the darkness tonight as it stretched across the darkness last night, and the night before that, and the night before that, extending backward through nights you cannot count, through nights that blur together into a continuous presence, a constant that persists while everything else changes, while everything else moves and shifts and passes away. Someone else stood beneath this same band of light once, not here perhaps, not in this exact place, but somewhere beneath the same sky, looking up at the same pale glow stretching across the black. They saw what you are seeing now, the same soft luminosity, the same diffuse river of light moving from one horizon to the other, the same darkness surrounding it, holding it, providing the background against which it becomes visible. They stood as you are standing, and they looked up as you are looking up, and the Milky Way was there for them as it is here for you, unchanged, constant, patient in its presence. And before that person, there was someone else, and before them, someone else again. A long line of people stretching backward through time, each one standing beneath the night sky at some moment in their lives, each one looking up and seeing the Milky Way overhead, seeing that band of light that has always been there, that was there before they were born and remained there after they died, indifferent to their presence, indifferent to their absence, simply continuing in its quiet existence, night after night, generation after generation. The Milky Way does not change as lives change. It does not age as people age. It does not move through the stages of existence that mark a human life, from birth to growth to decline to ending. It simply persists, the same tonight as it was last night, the same last night as it was a year ago, the same a year ago as it was 10 years ago, 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago. The time scales are different, the rhythms are different. What seems like an eternity to a human life is barely a moment to the Milky Way, barely a flicker, barely anything at all. You might think of all those people who have stood beneath this sky, who have seen this band of light overhead. They are gone now, most of them. Their lives unfolded and concluded, their moments of standing beneath the Milky Way passed and faded into memory, and then the memories themselves faded, until nothing remains of those moments except the fact that they happened, that someone was here once, looking up, seeing what you are seeing now. The Milky Way witnessed all of those moments, if witnessing is the right word, if the Milky Way can be said to witness anything. It was present for all of them, unchanging, offering the same pale glow to each person who took the time to notice it. And the Milky Way will be there after you are gone as well. After this moment has passed, After you have turned away and returned to wherever you came from, after your life has continued and eventually concluded, the Milky Way will still be stretching across the night sky, still offering its faint light to anyone who looks up, still following the same path from horizon to horizon that it has always followed. Your presence beneath it is temporary. Your seeing of it is brief, but the Milky Way continues, patient and constant, outlasting every observer, outlasting every moment of observation, existing in a time frame so vast that individual human lives barely register within it. There is something comforting in this persistence, in knowing that the Milky Way was there before you and will be there after you, that it provides a constant against which the changes of your life unfold, a background that remains stable while everything else shifts and moves. The pale band of light overhead is the same band of light that others have seen, that others will see, that connects you across time to everyone who has ever stood beneath a dark sky and noticed this presence, this soft glow stretching across the darkness. The night is quiet around you, and the Milky Way is quiet above you, and both have been quiet for longer than you can imagine, for longer than memory extends, for longer than stories reach back. The silence of the night sky is an old silence, an ancient silence, a silence that has persisted through all the noise and activity and change that happens beneath it, that happens on the surface of the earth, where lives unfold in their brief passages from beginning to ending. The Milky Way exists in this silence, contributes to this silence, is part of what makes the night feel timeless, feel removed from the ordinary flow of hours and days and years. You stand here now, in your moment, in your small portion of time, and the Milky Way stretches overhead in its moment, which is not small, which is vast beyond comprehension, which contains your moment and countless other moments within it, without strain, without effort, without any sense that it is carrying more than it can hold. Time moves differently here. The time of your standing, the time of your seeing, the time of your awareness, all of this unfolds within a larger time, a slower time, a time that belongs to the Milky Way and the night sky and the darkness that holds everything. Perhaps someone stood here centuries ago, in this same place or somewhere near it, and looked up at the same sky. The details of their life are lost. Their name is forgotten. What they thought as they stood there, what they felt, what the moment meant to them, all of this has disappeared, has faded beyond recovery. But the fact of their standing remains, preserved in nothing except the continuing presence of what they saw, the Milky Way still there, still stretching across the darkness, still offering the same view it offered to them, to you, to everyone who has ever paused long enough to notice it. The band of light overhead does not remember these observers. It does not keep track of who has seen it and who has not. It does not change based on whether it is being watched or ignored. It simply continues, indifferent to attention, indifferent to neglect, existing for itself rather than for any observer, present whether anyone is there to see it or not. And yet it provides a kind of continuity, a thread that connects across time, that links you to all those others who have stood beneath it, who have seen what you are seeing, who have shared this experience of looking up into the darkness and finding that pale river of light waiting there. The same sky, the same band of light, the same darkness surrounding it. These things persist while lives come and go beneath them, while generations succeed one another, while the surface of the earth changes in ways both small and large. The Milky Way remains above it all, unchanged by what happens below, unaffected by the passage of human time, continuing in its own time, which moves so slowly that it appears not to move at all, appears to be stillness rather than motion, permanence rather than change. You might imagine the Milky Way as a kind of witness, though it witnesses nothing, though it has no awareness, no consciousness, no capacity to observe or remember. But it is there, always there, present for every moment that unfolds beneath it, every life that passes through its time, every person who looks up and sees it. It is the constant background, the unchanging presence, the thing that remains the same while everything else transforms and dissolves and passes away. And in this constancy, there is a kind of witnessing, a kind of holding, a kind of preservation of all the moments that happen beneath its presence, even if those moments leave no trace, even if they vanish completely, even if nothing remains of them except the fact that they occurred. The Milky Way overhead is the same Milky Way that has always been overhead. The pale glow you are seeing is the same pale glow that has been visible for longer than human beings have existed, for longer than the earth has supported life, for longer than anything you can relate to or understand has been present. The time scales extend beyond comprehension, beyond the ability to grasp them in any meaningful way, and so they become something else, become a feeling rather than a fact, become the sense of deep time, of vast duration, of persistence beyond measure. And still you stand here, in your moment, brief and temporary and fleeting, looking up at something that will outlast you by so much that the comparison becomes meaningless. But the comparison does not need to be made. You do not need to measure your time against the time of the Milky Way. Do not need to feel diminished by the vastness of its duration. You are here now, and the Milky Way is here now. And both of these things are true. Both of these things matter. Both of these things are part of the same present moment, even if that moment means something different for you than it does for the band of light overhead. The darkness around you has held other people in other times, in other moments of standing and looking up. The same darkness, or darkness so similar that the difference does not matter, cannot be detected, exists only in the specific arrangement of stars, in the particular configuration of light and shadow that belongs to this night rather than some other night. But the essential quality remains the same. The darkness is dark, the Milky Way is pale, the band of light stretches across the black. These things do not change, have not changed, will not change, at least not in any time frame that has meaning for a human observer. You are part of a long succession of observers, whether you know it or not, whether you think of it this way or not. You are one more person standing beneath the Milky Way, one more moment of seeing, one more instance of the same experience repeated across time, across cultures, across the entire span of human existence. The experience is yours, unique to you, belonging to this moment and no other. But it is also shared, connected to all those other moments when someone else stood beneath the same sky and saw the same thing, felt the same sense of presence, the same quiet awareness of something larger, something that persists, something that was there before and will be thereafter. The Milky Way asks nothing of you. It does not require your attention, your understanding, your appreciation. It exists independently of all of that, continues independently of all of that, would be exactly the same if you were not here, if you had never been here, if no one had ever looked up and noticed it. And yet it offers itself to you, makes itself available to your seeing, allows you to be part of this long succession of observers who have found it waiting in the darkness, who have traced its path across the sky, who have stood in stillness beneath its presence and felt the weight of time, the depth of duration, the sense of something continuing far beyond the boundaries of a single life. The band of light overhead continues to glow faintly, patiently, as it has glowed for longer than you can imagine, as it will continue to glow for longer still, and you continue to stand beneath it, temporary and brief, here for this moment, and then gone, but part of the pattern while you are here, part of the long chain of seeing and being seen, of presence and witness, of time unfolding beneath something that barely knows time, that exists in a duration so vast that your entire life fits within a single instant of its continuing. The night holds you, and holds the Milky Way, and holds all the time that has passed beneath this sky, all the moments of standing and looking and seeing, all the lives that have unfolded in the darkness, all the generations that have succeeded one another, while the band of light overhead remained constant, unchanged, offering the same view to each new observer, the same pale glow, the same soft presence stretching across the black. And you are here now, in this moment that belongs to you, and also belongs to all of them, to everyone who has ever stood beneath the Milky Way, to everyone who ever will, connected across time by the simple act of looking up, of seeing, of noticing what has always been there, what will always be there, patient and quiet and utterly without urgency, existing in its own time, which contains all other times, which holds all moments within its vast and gentle persistence. Perhaps you think again of those who came before, not their names, not their stories, not the details of their lives, but simply the fact of them, the fact that they existed, that they stood somewhere beneath this same sky, that their eyes found this same band of light stretching through the darkness. They are gone now, returned to the earth, to the darkness, to whatever lies beyond the brief span of a human life. But the Milky Way remains. It was there for them, and it is here for you, and it will be there for others, continuing in its slow and patient way, outlasting every observer, every moment of observation, every life that passes beneath it. The band of light does not mourn their passing. It does not celebrate their having been here. It simply continues, as it has always continued, indifferent and constant, offering its presence to the night without regard for who might be there to see it, without concern for whether anyone notices or cares or understands. The Milky Way exists for itself, in itself, sustained by forces and processes that have nothing to do with human observation, human meaning, human time. And yet it is there for you to see, there for anyone to see, a gift offered without intention, a presence made available without expectation. And you stand here in your moment, which is brief, which is temporary, which will pass as all moments pass, as all lives pass, as everything passes except perhaps the Milky Way, which persists in a time frame so different from yours that the word passing has no meaning for it, or a meaning so different that it cannot be compared to what passing means for you. Your moment will end. You will turn away eventually, return to wherever you came from. Carry this image with you or forget it. Let it fade into the background of memory or hold it close. But the Milky Way will not end. It will continue night after night, year after year, across spans of time that dwarf your entire existence. There is a peace in this, in knowing that some things continue regardless of what happens to you, regardless of what you do or do not do, regardless of whether you are here or gone. The Milky Way's persistence is not dependent on you. It does not need you to continue. And perhaps there is comfort in that, in being released from the burden of being necessary, of being required, of being anything other than another brief observer passing through a small portion of an enormous duration. The pale band stretches across the darkness, as it stretched across the darkness when your ancestors stood beneath it, as it will stretch across the darkness when those who come after you stand beneath it. The same path from horizon to horizon, the same soft glow diffused through the black, the same quality of light that is not quite light, that is more like the memory of light, like the ghost of brightness, like something caught between presence and absence. This has not changed. This will not change, at least not in any way you could perceive, not in any time frame that matters to a human life. You are standing in a moment that is part of a much longer moment, a moment that extends backward and forward through time, that includes all the other moments when someone stood beneath this sky and saw what you are seeing. Your moment is singular, is yours alone, happens only once and will never happen again in exactly this way. But it is also part of a pattern, part of a repetition, part of something that has been happening for as long as human beings have had eyes to see and darkness to see it in. The Milky Way connects these moments without effort, without intention, simply by being there, by persisting, by offering the same presence to each observer across the vast span of human time. And so you remain here a while longer, beneath the band of light, beneath the darkness, beneath the sky that has held so many others, that will hold so many more, that holds you now in this present moment that is already beginning to fade, already beginning to pass, already becoming part of the past, even as you experience it. The Milky Way watches without watching, witnesses without witnessing, continues without continuing, because it has never stopped, because there is no stopping for something that exists on such a scale, in such a time frame, with such patient indifference to the brief flickers of awareness that happen beneath it. The darkness deepens around you, or perhaps it only seems to deepen. Perhaps it remains exactly as it was, as it has always been, and the Milky Way glows faintly overhead. Or perhaps it only seems to glow. Perhaps it is simply there, simply present, simply existing in the way it has always existed, offering nothing, asking nothing, being nothing except itself, stretched across the night in its ancient path, in its timeless presence, in its quiet persistence that knows no beginning and suggests no ending. The darkness deepens around you, or perhaps it only seems to deepen, Perhaps it remains exactly as it was, as it has always been, and the Milky Way glows faintly overhead. Or perhaps it only seems to glow. Perhaps it is simply there, simply present, simply existing in the way it has always existed, offering nothing, asking nothing, being nothing except itself, stretched across the night in its ancient path, in its timeless presence, in its quiet persistence that knows no beginning and suggests no ending. And perhaps time itself has begun to feel different, standing here beneath this band of light. Perhaps the usual sense of minutes passing, of moments accumulating, of one instant giving way to the next, has softened, has blurred, has become less distinct. You have been here for a while now, though you cannot say how long. The Milky Way has been overhead for much longer, though that duration has no number, no measurement that would make it comprehensible. Time stretches between these two scales, your brief watching and its endless presence, and somewhere in that stretching, time loses its urgency, its forward motion, its insistence on progression. The band of light continues across the sky, patient in a way that has nothing to do with waiting, constant in a way that has nothing to do with effort. It was there before you arrived at this moment of watching, and it will be there after you leave. And between these 2 points, your presence and your absence, nothing about the Milky Way will have changed. It will not have noticed you. It will not remember you. It will simply have continued, as it continues now, as it has always continued, in its own rhythm, its own duration, its own vast and gentle unfolding. Others will stand here, or somewhere like here, in nights yet to come. They will look up as you are looking up now, and they will see what you are seeing, and the experience will be theirs, unique and particular and unrepeatable, and also the same, connected to your experience and to all the experiences that came before, linked by the simple fact of the Milky Way's presence, its constancy, its quiet offering of the same view across centuries, across millennia, across the entire span of time, during which human beings have had the capacity to look up and wonder at what they see. The pale glow overhead asks nothing of these future observers, just as it asks nothing of you. It will be there whether they look or not, whether they notice or ignore, whether they stand in stillness beneath it or pass by without seeing. The Milky Way's existence does not depend on being seen, does not require observation, does not need witnesses to validate its presence. It simply is, and will continue to be, indifferent to attention, indifferent to neglect, offering itself without expectation, without need, without any desire except perhaps the desire of anything to continue being what it already is. And you stand here still, or perhaps you are beginning to turn away, beginning to let the image fade, beginning to release your attention from the band of light overhead. Or perhaps you remain, unwilling yet to leave this moment, this quiet communion with something so much larger than yourself, this standing beneath the persistence of the Milky Way. The choice is yours, though it does not feel like a choice, does not feel like something requiring decision. You are here, or you are beginning to not be here, and both states exist at once. Both possibilities remain open, and the Milky Way continues regardless, patient in its presence, constant in its glow. As we come to the end of this quiet journey, there is nothing you need to remember, and nothing you need to hold on to. If sleep has already found you, may it be gentle and deep. And if you are still awake, may these thoughts fade softly into the background of the night. Wherever you are and however you are listening, thank you for sharing this calm moment. May the quiet stay with you.